Hello, everybody. I'm Attorney Dale Sweet, licensed here in Missouri still. They haven't managed to figure out a way to mess that up. And I'm broadcasting live here on YouTube from beautiful, fashionable, and sunny South St. Louis. I'm delighted to be with you all tonight. And the reason why I'm here is that the phone has been ringing off the hook with people asking questions about this post third list in St. Louis County. And so what we're here to do is talk about that tonight. And so I'm going to jump right into my slides by clicking on something here on my little scenes. And that's not what I want. This is what I want. And my face just grayed out, but that's okay. So very, very generally speaking, this is not meant as legal advice, and I'm not your attorney unless I am your attorney. This is not related to anybody's specific situation, yours or anybody else's. Every single everything is unique. And St. Louis County has 1,700 and something properties on this post third list that we're going to go through here in just a second. And every single thing is unique. The audience for tonight is investors and community advocates. Somebody who knows somebody who's losing their house, somebody who knows somebody who's losing their business, somebody who wants to get off a plane, somebody who wants to buy the property across the street, the church that needs a bigger parking lot, the school that needs a playground. You get the idea. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff tonight about St. Louis County's post third list. Now, we're going to learn here in just a second that the system is the same in every Missouri county except for the city of St. Louis and Jackson County and certain parts of Kansas City that lie outside of Jackson County. I can't say anything on any county list is correct. I'm only talking in general tonight. And the Missouri Bar requires me to say, or at least the Supreme Court requires me to say, that the choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. So tonight, folks, we're going to talk about St. Louis County's post-third list. And we're going to talk about it in some detail. And we're going to investigate a few examples that I have here, that I might have slides for that people called me for yesterday. I said, hey, do you mind if I use that as an example? And so we're going to do all of those things here yet tonight. And just, moving on here on the slides, this is the post-third list. It's the end of a long process. And when I say the end of a long process, I mean that this started several years ago. And so now we're at the very end, but we have to talk about a few things until we figure out how we got to the very end, how we got to the point of no return and the point where there is no redemption. We'll learn what redemption means. And you have to understand that the post-third list is not an auction, but it's rather a place where you can make an offer. This is the time where the price goes down, not up. And so we have to briefly discuss the process in order to get to the point where we can actually get started on the meat of our production. So tonight here at the Sweet Law Office Studios in beautiful, fashionable, and sunny South St. Louis, I have a couple of people who are highly trusted and highly diligent, and they are going to be monitoring the chat. And so if you have a specific question, please put it in the chat. They'll bring it into me, and maybe we'll do it. Maybe we'll use your example or another example, and we'll just go live here on YouTube. We're going to do some examples tonight, as I just mentioned, and you should also know that there are some new developments in the law. And so therefore, I intend, after this presentation tonight, to take down the previous Zoom videos that we did on the city and the county, and replace them with new videos in April and June of 2022. My email address is Dale at Missouri Tax Sales, plural. That's Dale at Missouri, spelled out, tax, TAXSALES.com, and it'll be on a slide at the end of this presentation. This is the state of Missouri. The city of St. Louis is totally different. Jackson County, including some parts outside of Jackson County, have a completely different system. The process is similar in most Missouri counties, although every collector of revenue in Missouri's many counties may have a slightly different process that she or he uses in handling their tax sales. Real estate taxes carry no personal liability. They're due every year. In fact, it's due here in just a few days on December 31st of 2021 and December 31st of every year. And what happens if the if the tax bill goes unpaid? We're going to talk about that here tonight. Taxes pay for museums, the zoo, the science center, our schools such as Parkway, Rockwood, you get the idea. For the St. Louis County Public Library, the St. Louis City Public Library, any library district, and back taxes are what we're talking about here tonight. This is an age-old method, so the government cannot sue us personally to ask us to pay our taxes and garnish our wages or take away our Buick, but the government can absolutely sue our property or otherwise foreclose on a delinquent tax bill against our property, use it to pay the tax bill. And so the county got the farm and we moved to town. How did the county get the farm? Well, the tax bill was unpaid. And so this is a legal fiction from back in rural and agrarian England, where the idea was that you had to give the tax collector or the king a chicken or vegetables when you raised crops on your farm. The idea is that the land pays the taxes, and county taxes for those reasons, schools, libraries, museums, are a high priority lien, higher than many or any other, but we're going to get to that. Moving on here, if you know somebody who's on the post-third list, or whose property is on the post-third list, why then you should suggest to that person that she or he contact the collector of the relevant county, such as St. Louis County, and make arrangements right away. Figure out what they can pay to get off that list. Be careful of any government clerk's advice, and the reason for that is that these folks who work at the government, who do a very great job, who are arduous, whose tasks are arduous, are not always correct, are certainly not trained in the law, are certainly not the collector of revenue, him or herself. And so therefore it may be important for you to consult an attorney at some point during this process. You don't have to choose me. This advice is free, but it's not legal advice. I'm only talking generally about less than specific situations here in St. Louis County. The 5th and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution cover all of what we're talking about here. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you've had to sit through this, I'm sorry, we have to do it again. The Constitution is very important, and the Constitution has the 5th Amendment. It covers eminent domain. The government can't take away your or my property without due process of law and paying us just compensation. We can't be compelled to testify against ourselves in a criminal proceeding. That's plead the fifth. And we also can't be held in double jeopardy. That means they can't try us twice for the same crime. And for the tax sale arena, which is what we're here to talk about tonight, that means the government cannot deprive a person of her, his, or its, or their property interest without due process of law. What does that normally mean? It means notice. And so we're going to talk about that a lot as we go into how the post-third system works. Because in most cases, there is no notice to a lien holder in a post-third tax sale in any Missouri county. Buying real estate for taxes is technical and specialized. You should be represented by an attorney. It's not as risky as you've heard, but it can be. If there's 1,700 properties on a list, some might be absolutely horrifying and leave you end up bankrupt and divorced. On the other hand, however, you can get some really good deals on these lists, and I'm here tonight to try to explain how you can help yourself figure out which ones are good and which ones are bad. The reason why tax sales are problematic in a title sense is that they represent a break in the chain of title. So in my South Park example here, Cartman sells to Kyle. That's a legitimate sale. Kyle's a bona fide purchaser for value. He pays money. They have a warranty deed. They close at Acme Title Company out on Lindbergh Boulevard, blah, blah, blah. But then Kyle sells to Kenny, and that's exactly the same. Perfectly perfect. But then Kenny doesn't pay his taxes. Why does Kenny not pay his taxes? That could be a host of different reasons. Kenny might have money problems. He might be a deceased, disabled minor child who is incapacitated, incarcerated, and a deployed service member who does not exist and has granted a big easement over his property and has a huge bill to the Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District or some other sewer district in which Kenny's property is located. If you buy Kenny's property from the collector of revenue, you may very well and probably should, under the law as it stands, inherit some of Kenny's problems. Whether you should or not is a policy decision that's not up to you or me. It's up to the Missouri legislature, and we'll talk about that. So when are the auctions? Tonight, we're not talking about auctions. We're talking about making an offer to the collector of revenue in St. Louis County to buy a deed over the counter with no court proceedings, ding, 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 due process, last slide. And in St. Louis County and most Missouri counties, that auction is always the fourth Monday in August. In 2022, the auction will be August 22nd. For the last 2 years, due to the pandemic, the St. Louis County Collector of Revenue has chosen to conduct those auctions by sealed bid in an envelope delivered to the county government building. I have no idea what the situation will be on the fourth Monday in August this year, except for to know that that's August 22nd and that date holds based on state law. Jackson County, we're not talking about. In the city of St. Louis, we have a completely different system, but the city has recently released its auction dates for 2022. They are, as you see on the slide, April 19, May 24, June 28, July 12, and August 23rd. So a lot of properties are going to move at the St. Louis City Courthouse this spring and summer and early fall, but we're not talking about those kinds of sales tonight. Rather, we're talking about the St. Louis County post-third list. I'm going to get there eventually, folks. You just got to bear with me here for a couple of minutes, 14, 15, whatever, until we get through the necessary disclaimers. The general timeline for a tax sale in St. Louis County anyway, and this would be a shorter timeline in Gasconade County, Phelps County, Boone County, Crawford County, Washington County, etc., is that the taxes go unpaid for 3 years. There's no magic about the 3 years. So that's a policy decision made by the county. And what I mean when I say that is that a county can absolutely choose to act on a delinquent tax bill long before the taxes go unpaid for 3 years. They can waltz into that office on January 1, January 2 after the holiday and get started on the process for the following August. However, in general, St. Louis County waits 3 years. So the taxes go unpaid for 2016, 2017, and 2018 in this example, which is from St. Louis County. And then in August 2019, the collector of revenue will offer the property for sale for the first time. Now, they're not really offering the property for sale. What they're offering is a lien on the property. What is it for? The 2016, 2017, and 2018 taxes. Somebody would attend a public auction and bid. They would bid by sealed bid, as we're currently doing it based on COVID restrictions. And if nobody bids on that property, it will be offered for sale for the second time the following August, in August of 2020. And what I'm saying there is that the status quo completely continues until the following August. The same person owns the property, the tax bill is still unpaid, and the government will offer the property for sale again the following year. There's a 1 year to 18-month right of redemption, which means somebody can pay the tax bill plus interest plus certain expenses and keep her, its, or their, or his property if it is sold on a first or second offering tax sale. If, however, those taxes remain unpaid for 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020, why then the government will offer the property for sale for the third time, and they will do that in August of 2021, which is this year, which is why I use this example. And on a third sale, there's a 90-day right to redeem. There's some specific requirements. We'll talk about that in another video that I release this coming summer. And by the time that we roll around to where we are right now, which is December 2021, the government has updated the post-third list. Now, every collector of revenue across the state of Missouri, except for the city of St. Louis and Jackson County, could have a similar list. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. We're talking about St. Louis County, and they usually update the post-third list shortly after Thanksgiving. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that they take off the properties where they've sold. The taxes have been paid out of closing. The property has been redeemed. The taxpayer has paid her or its or their or his taxes. Or, I mean that the property is already sold. So there is no real-time list in St. Louis County or in any other Missouri county that I know of that will tell us in real time what's actually available now. In St. Louis County, there's something like 1,600 or 1,700 properties. How do we know that? We looked at their list that they released a few weeks ago. What if something happened today? What if something happened yesterday? What if something's going to happen tomorrow? The list is the same. St. Louis County usually waits 3 years to get started on this process, but other counties do not. So be careful, please. All right, so the tax sales in St. Louis County and in most Missouri counties are handled under the Jones-Munger Act, which is a 1939 statute written for a rural county. It's a mess. It's been updated over time, a little bit at a time by the legislature, and it's been modified by various case law over time. It needs a total revamp one of these days, in my opinion, as a Missouri citizen. But under the Act, this is an administrative system. What does that mean? We're not in front of a judge. Anyone who's been in front of a judge on a probate case or a divorce case or other kind of case knows that a judge can absolutely affect the title to a piece of real estate in the state of Missouri. However, here we're not talking about a judicial system. This is not a lawsuit. This is something that happens in the office of your local county collector, and in this case, in the office of the St. Louis County collector. The taxes go unpaid for how long? We just talked about that. The collector offers the property, but rather they're on a lien for sale. And when we get to that post-third list, they're no longer offering a lien. They're offering the property, the deed, and whatever title they have to the property for sale. Let's talk about that just a little bit more. The post-third list is the last resort. The idea is not to take away Americans' properties, but rather to keep them in the family, keep them in the name of the delinquent taxpayer, and when we do so, we keep our schools, our libraries, etc. going. The post-third list is the last resort. There's 16, 17, 1,800 properties on that list in St. Louis County. We're going to get to all of that. I'm looking at a question from our live stream. Appreciate it. And the question is If you purchase a home, well, okay, we're not talking about homes or houses, we're talking about land that might have a skyscraper on it, a warehouse, a factory, an apartment building, you get the idea. But a TV antenna. But if the county offers a property with a tax lien, then the redeeming party or the granddaughter or the lien holder or the taxpayer or the record title owner would have to pay back the lien plus interest in order to keep their property and prevent the issuance of a title. But that's not really issuance of a deed, but that's not really what we're talking about tonight. That's a better question for June. See you then. Under Chapter 140, we have first and second offering sales, we have a third sale, and we have the post-third list. That's what we're here to talk about tonight. When people don't buy things off the post-third list, the counties can transfer properties to municipalities that are located within the county, or the county can transfer the property to its trustee, or its trustee can bid on the property at the government auction, which means that we end up with 3 or 4 different ways that a person who is inclined to buy property off of a post-third list or a trustees list might be able to perfect their ownership of that property. St. Louis County has recently updated its post-third list. It's out on my email, and if you want to be on my email list, it's Dale at Missouri Tax Sales, plural, taxsales.com. St. Louis County also has a trustees list. We're not talking about that tonight, but the issues are very similar. St. Louis County also conveys some properties to municipalities such as Jennings or Ferguson in order to achieve redevelopment goals set out by the county councils or the legislatures in those specific municipalities. Other Missouri counties may have similar lists or not. They might have trustees lists, and we're not talking about Jackson County. Redemption is a word you've already heard me toss around a couple of times, and that's a word that means somebody pays some amount to retain her, its, their, or his property interest. But theoretically, there is no right to redeem on a post-third list property due to the extreme tax delinquency. What do I mean by that? I mean that if the taxpayer wants to redeem her property, she will have to pay every single cent, even though an investor may not have to pay as much, and we're going to get to that. A lien holder, however, may be able to redeem, or a disabled person, go back to my Kenny and South Park example, may be able to redeem for less than the full amount of back taxes, or may have longer. What kinds of properties are offered? All of them. Sometimes they are triangular parcels by the railroad tracks. We'll get to an example of that. Sometimes they are occupied buildings. Sometimes they are common ground that are dedicated to a subdivision. Sometimes they have easements going all over them, and easements are not extinguished by the tax sale list. You should always beware of what you're buying and be aware that everything is unique. This is the current map, and this is on my email list. If you want to be on my email list, I already told you my email. And this shows you the layout of properties. 15 in far west, southwest St. Louis County, 6 in the Bridgeton area. You get the idea. And you can use my batch geocoded map to zoom on individual properties in order to figure out what the collector might, no guarantee, be selling. How do you investigate? Well, you would go first to the county website, and we're going to do that here in a hot minute. We're also going to look at Google Street View, but no one should bid on anything until she has gone there and actually stood on the sidewalk with her binoculars and looked at the shingles and looked at the chimney and looked at the door and so on. There's no right to inspect. One is a trespasser until they get a deed to that property. You might talk to someone there, you might talk to a neighbor, you might check the legal description carefully, you might hire a land surveyor or a title company, you might get a title report, and you might try to figure out exactly what you might be bidding on if indeed you choose to so bid. Post-third sales are something where nobody bought the property the last 3 Augusts. And now you're buying the property and not a lien. You pay, your offer is accepted, and then you obtain a collector's deed to the property. This is a matter that happens over the counter at the collector's office. There is no judge involved, there is no lawsuit, there is no court proceeding. How much should you offer? Collectors have discretion. Since we're talking about St. Louis County, very generally, and we have this on good authority, St. Louis County will accept 100% of the principal taxes, plus the sewer lateral fee, if applicable, of $28 per property per year, minus the penalties and interest. No guarantee. That's what they might offer. The collector they might accept. The collector has discretion. And so we start at that point, and then we add a little bit of sugar just in case somebody else is bidding, and then we offer it. Our check either comes back from the collector with a thanks but no thanks letter, or it gets accepted and deposited, and we have a deed. So that's the way that St. Louis County's works. There will be different procedures in other counties. There has been no notice, however, in this administrative across the counter in the collector's office system as to a lien holder. And what I mean by that is that Hannibal National Bank, Deutsche Bank, Citibank, a judgment creditor, the HOA, the sewer district has a lien or other encumbrance on the property, it may very well continue, and that's what we're talking about here tonight. So therefore, you're likely going to want to sue to quiet title after you get a deed and cross your fingers. Of course, by that time, you're also going to be renovating or otherwise making the property, demolishing, otherwise making the property available for productive use in the future. And so therefore, it may be highly desirable to reserve a contingency in the renovation or redevelopment budget to pay for unexpected disasters that may occur during the quiet title process. We'll get more to what a quiet title is here in the future. I've got a couple examples I'll do, and before we even get to them, I'll share with you how I got these examples. I had a client come in the other day and said, "Well, how do I maneuver this list? There's 1,700 properties on it, Dale. What do I do? I'm looking for single-family houses, 18-family complexes, warehouses, factories, storefronts, whatever." I said, close your eyes and point at the list. And here are two addresses that we came up with, and I think that they're both very good. So I'm going to jump here out of my slides and jump to the St. Louis County post-third list. And so I'm going to make this big, 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 big. And here we have one. This is in my email. The same information on St. Louis County's website, or I can send it to you. And so here we have 5207 Hamilton, which is a street address. What is it? I don't know. We don't know. I still don't know. We're going to try to figure it out together. Now that's, the municipality is Jennings, so that's in Jennings, Missouri, 63136. We believe that the delinquent taxpayer's name or the record title owner is Neely J. Bolden. I have no idea who that person is. If they exist, if they're alive or deceased, I hope they're alive and doing well. But in any event, there's our locator number. That will be absolutely necessary if we choose to bid on this property. The X in this column indicates that the county government, or specifically the county assessor, believes that the property is improved with a building. Now, that could be a garage. It could be a pavilion. It could be a carport. It could be a garage. It could be a house. It could be a house that's falling down. It could be a warehouse. But they believe that there is something on the land other than a tire or potato chip bag. Something on the land, a structure. Moving on along, the final column is C or R. R is residential, which means that the county government believes, whether it's correct or not, that 5207 Hamilton is an improved parcel of land in Jennings, which means it has something on it, and that something is residential. That's all we know from looking at the county list. I don't guarantee it; they don't either. So we're working from there. Now let's just make that a little bit smaller here, shall we? And let's look at St. Louis County's website. And I'm going to go here. And here in my browser, I'm simply going to put in St. Louis County Real Estate Lookup. And that, because I misspelled Lewis, I'm going to go back here and stick a little I in there. And we're looking here at the county assessor. There's Jake Zimmerman, the county assessor. And I'm going to click on real estate information right here. I hope you all can see my cursor. I'm going to put in the property address. What was it? 5207 Hamilton. That's a musical, but I'm not inclined to break out right now. And then this screen comes up. When I get to this screen, I can click on map. I hope everybody can see that, because what I'm looking at is Hamilton Avenue, and I'm looking at 5207, which is right there. It's the third house, it appears, from Lillian. And it has a smaller house set across from it. It looks to be just fine from this satellite view on the county's website. It appears, but I am not a land surveyor, can't guarantee it, neither can you until you know what you're buying and have some title insurance, what you're buying. But this appears to be a house with a little outbuilding out back at 5207, or a patio, I don't know what that is. Okay, so I'm going to minimize that window here for a minute. I'm just going to click here on the county's website at the street address. And I see a handful of different things here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for your... So the property owner's name could be Neely J. Bolden. The taxing address is the address of the property. The mailing address is same as the taxing address. What does that mean? It's not owned by somebody across town or a landlord. No one has said, send my tax bill somewhere else. It's located in the city of Jennings, specifically in the subdivision of West Walnut Manor. It is all of Block 32, and the lot dimensions appear to be 50 by 50 by 128 by 128. It's been a long time since I've been in grade school, but I think what we used to call that is a rectangle. So the property appears to be a rectangle. While we're on this screen, I'm going to click on this View Deed Index information. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to see that it appears here on this particular screen, and this screen is only updated if a recorded document contains that locator number, which is not a requirement. So it appears here that a Charles Scheimer sold the property to Neely Bolden on a warranty deed in May of 2001, 20 years ago. And there was a deed of trust issued at the same time because Neely Bolden needed a loan to pay the purchase price of Charles Scheimer to Paramount Bond and Mortgage. So that's what we can tell from this. Now, let's move out of that screen for a minute here. Let's go back up to the top and let's click on Sketch. This appears to be what the county assessor thinks the improvements located on that property might look like. And specifically here, we have a masonry and frame dwelling, 33 foot, 24 foot, 41 foot, great. We have a porch, we have a patio out back, you get the idea. Moving on from there, we can go to the tax history. And again, I'm not saying that any of this information is correct, it's just what's on the county's website. And I'm going to make that just a little bit bigger for us to look at here. And we see that the taxes haven't been paid on this property since 2011. And there was a long gap where the taxes were not assessed or something. We don't know. I can't guarantee any of this information. But the taxes have not been paid for the tax years 2011 through 2021. And they appear to be a variable amount every year. But of course, the oldest years are carrying a lot of penalties and interest. Let's click on tax info and receipt here, shall we? And if I scroll down, we see the taxes are due and the amount is $32,000. So technically speaking, under the law, somebody can walk into the county collector's office tomorrow with $32,075.78 in a cashier's check, plus another $30 for recording of a deed, plus an affidavit saying that that offer or the investor making the offer doesn't owe any other taxes in St. Louis County, and he or she or it or they would get a deed. However, you don't have to pay all of these interest and penalties. So the real offer amount that the county, on good authority, but I don't work for the county, I can't guarantee it, would be this column here of taxes plus the sewer lateral fee and minus the penalties and interest plus a little sugar. Moving up here, I don't think we have a whole lot else that we need to look at on that particular property. So let's look at a different one. And this is one that came up today. A lady called me and she said, there's this property, you know, it's at 4712 Bristol Rock. It's on the post third list. And I don't understand why the taxes are so low because it is a house. That's what she said. She said it's a house. So I went here and I saw that 4712 Bristol Rock is owned by Corey Williams. There's its locator number. I clicked on the little map icon. Now, I'm not a land surveyor. I'm not going out to this particular address until somebody wants to pay me, and I wouldn't be the right guy to send out there anyway. I'm going to close this little window here. Here's Old Halls Ferry. Here's Bristol Rock. Here's 4712. According to the county, can't verify this information, haven't been out there, not a land surveyor, but it appears to me, based on this map, that 4712 is a vacant lot, or maybe it has a little bit of the garage from 4722 Bristol Rock located on it. So I'm going to go back here and look at a few more things on the county's website to see if I can verify that information. So I'm going to click here on the address. I'm going to click on the sketch. Oh, no sketch. Might be a vacant lot. I'm going to click on the tax history. The taxes are only $400 or $500 a year. Might be a vacant lot. Don't know. If I went back to my spreadsheet here and I put in 4712 Bristol, and I went to that line item here, line 61, and I went across, I see that this is located in Blackjack, 63033. It's owned by RKCC Incorporated. There's the locator number. The lack of an X in column G indicates that there is no improvement or structure on that property, and the R in column H indicates that it's residential. In short, even without going out there it's likely that that is indeed a vacant lot. So let's look here for just a second, back in Google Street View at St. Louis. Well, let's do this. Let's look up that first address. What was it, 5707 Hamilton? I don't think this was actually the address that we were looking up. I think we were looking up this one. But in any event, that's a house. And this picture on Google Street View was allegedly taken in August of 2021. And so that was only a few months ago. That's trustworthy, I suppose. But you should never make an offer on a property on the post third list or any other tax sale list without actually physically going out and taking a look at it. Now let's look at 4712 Bristol Rock. Maps. I have to fix that. 4712 Bristol Rock. No. 4712 47 to get your computer to cooperate sometimes. 4712 Bristol Rock, St. Louis. And then maps. And then the image. And so if we go here and we go on this other side and we spin around, we're doing this together, folks. That's 4722. And so house numbers are not super helpful because a property can be whatever the hell it is. But this appears to be 4722. It appears to me, I don't know about you, that in this particular house, the homeowners or a prior homeowner probably closed up the garage and turned it into a rec room or a family room or a TV room. And they built on a garage. And that garage may be on 4712, which is the property that's on the post third list. But what is not on the post third list is this particular house, in my opinion, and I could be wrong. And I'm basing that on the county's website, the tax history, and so on. Let's do one more example. Let's go back to that little Excel sheet, wherever she might be. Let's go to Excel. And the county post third list. Let's make it bigger. Let's make it even bigger so you can see it. And let's put in Country Woods. This is something else that somebody put their finger on the other day when we were here. Let's just do country. That might be as good an example as anything else. 12624 Country Brook. Yep. Let's do that one. 12624 Country Brook. Closing my, while we're still here on the Excel list, which is the same thing that's on the county's website, that's an unincorporated St. Louis County. It is not in any particular municipality. 63138. It's owned by Edna Herman. There's your locator number. It is a vacant lot according to the county, and it is residential. Now, it's 12624 Country Brook. So let's just keep that information for a hot little minute here. Let's go to new search in the county's website. And let's put in 12624 Country. There we go. So now we have a property here. Before I even click on the map, I'm going to do something cute here. So this property is located at 12624 Country Brook Drive. The mailing address, however, is at 8815 Partridge. And if I go down here, I'm going to make this bigger so everybody can see it. The lot dimensions appear to be triangular. Oh, 120 feet by 230 feet by 255 feet. What does that mean? It's probably a triangle, but we're going to figure that out here in just a second. So I'm going to go back from this to that map. I'm going to click here and drag it over so that you all can see it. And guess what? This property is indeed a triangle. It appears to have some electrical wires, a train track, no driveway going into it, even one little bit. And therefore it may or may not be buildable, usable, et cetera, et cetera. Check your zoning, check your everything. Moving out from this little window there's Country Brook Drive. Here are some houses on Country Brook Drive. There appears to be some sort of little utility easement or something down here in the way. And then there's this triangle. So let's see what else we can figure out about that triangle. Let's pretend, for instance, that I'm dumb. Let's pretend that I'm just dying to open up my wallet and write a big fat check to the St. Louis County Collector in order to get this property on Country Brook. Okay, then I might go right here to 12624 Country Brook and look at that property on Google Maps and click on this and see that it looks like a house. Now, you and I know that the house itself is past these electrical lines that we looked at a minute ago. This house is not what we're buying. We're buying a triangular wooded area of land way far behind this house. On the other hand, however, a dumb person might look at this and see that they were buying this house. Well, guess what? It is tax positive or not tax delinquent. How do we know that? Let's just scroll in here on this mailbox. And so here we have 12620. Now you and I both know that that's Country Brook. So I'm going to go back up here and put in St. Louis County real estate lookup, county assessor, real estate information, property address, 12620, country, tax info. Taxes are due, but they're only due for 1 year. So, and the taxes aren't even due, as we all know, until December 31st of this year. So what that means is that we're doing just fine here, folks. That house on Country Brook or Country Woods or whatever it was is not for sale. That what's for sale is that triangular lot. I think those are very good examples. And before we move on to the next slide, what I'd like to do is cover a couple of questions that have come in off the wire. So, the legal description, so Rita asks on our chat, if it could be that rec room in the back and not the house, how does one for sure verify where is the legal description? A brief legal description appears on the county's website. So that showed for a moment there on some screens that I was scrolling through when I went to Google and put in St. Louis County real estate lookup. On the other hand, however, the person who actually shows you where lot lines are or where a property description begins and ends is known as a land surveyor. And so you would call Topo Surveying in Florissant. You would call Frontenac Engineering or the Pittsman's Company in Maplewood, or some other surveying outfit and ask them to survey the land for you. Yes, that would be an expense that you would incur prior to actually making an offer to the county collector. However, it might be an expense well worth spending. We have somebody else who asks, if a property has a mortgage, does the mortgage company have to offer a way to settle the mortgage? No. it simply continues. So we go back to the 5th and 14th Amendments here, folks. If I borrow $10,000 against my property, there's a note and a deed of trust. I never pay a dollar on that. And then I lose my property for back taxes because the taxes and the insurance are not escrowed in my mortgage payment. Well, then guess what? The mortgagee or the mortgage company or the servicer or the lender or the bank has never received any kind of notice at any point during the tax sale process that would let them know that the taxes are delinquent. Sure, they should be paying attention to it, but we have this thing called the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And the government, St. Louis County, St. Louis City, St. Charles County, Boone County, whoever, cannot take away, Sangamon County, Illinois, cannot take away a lien holder's interest without notice to that lien holder. And so you would absolutely have to be prepared to make an offer or otherwise settle with a lien holder in a situation such as the one presented by the questioner. Let's move back to our slides here for a second. Because we're about to talk about a quiet title lawsuit. So if you were to purchase a property from St. Louis County or some other Missouri county off of a post third list, you would probably want to do something to fix up your title. You don't have a deed from the delinquent taxpayer. You don't have a release from that lender that the questioner was asking about, and so on. So generally speaking, we work from a title report. Some clients desire to order a title report prior to making an offer on the property. Phenomenal idea, highly recommended. That's not to say that I wouldn't represent you or that one of my colleagues in some other office, a competitor, wouldn't represent you if you didn't, but it's highly desirable. And the attorney mounting the quiet title, which is a lawsuit, it's a lawsuit that's tax sale purchaser versus everybody else who shows up on the title report. And that attorney is going to conduct skip tracing to figure out who the delinquent taxpayer is, where is she, he, it, or they now, going to look up people with common names, Nevada companies, Wyoming companies, Delaware companies, you get the idea. There are going to be defunct lenders on there such as Argent or Beneficial or other old lenders that aren't really around anymore. And we're going to sue them and ask them to come forward with the evidence that they own the property better than the tax sale purchaser who placed an offer on that property off of the tax sale list. A quiet title is entirely detail sensitive. It's very expensive. Most of the expense is expenses. And what I mean by that is people call me and they say, how much is a quiet title? I said, why? They said, well, I just got this tax deed. I say, well, I can't guarantee that I'm going to be successful in your quiet title at all. And they say, okay, well, I want to go ahead anyway. They say, where's your title report? We look at that title report, and I say it's probably going to be within $1,000 and $2,000. It's probably going to be 4 to 5 months. And I know that because in St. Louis County, I've filed hundreds of them. And so I can't guarantee you anything, but that's probably where we're at. And about half of what I'm asking that you pay me is going to be amounts that are involved in expenses of your lawsuit, such as a legal newspaper, such as a process server, such as the recorder of deeds, such as a sheriff's deputy, such as a certified copy, such as the filing fee to the circuit clerk, and you get the idea. Hundreds of dollars evaporate in quiet titles before your attorney ever gets paid. In a quiet title, you can also, and should in many cases, but this is general, not anybody's specific situation, ask the judge for ejectment. And the reason to do that is that if there is any occupant in the property, and she, he, it, we, they, or whoever will not, enter into suitable arrangements with the new owner of the property, which was you under this example, well then we might need the sheriff's deputy's assistance to remove that person from the property, and we would do so in the same procedure. On the other hand, however, I highly recommend against using sheriff's deputies with guns to remove people from homes. And the reason is, both humanitarian and practical. In fact, that's one of the pitfalls here on my next slide. At top right, we see removing occupants, just talked about that. Right below that, you might inherit code problems. If somebody hasn't paid their taxes in 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, there's probably going to be some peeling paint, don't you think? What happens if University City tore down the house yesterday while your offer was pending with the St. Louis County Collector of Revenue? The tax sale law cannot wipe out easements. So if the entire lot is occupied with an easement, or a portion of it is, as long as that easement was paid for long ago, that easement continues for use of those power lines that we saw on the Country Woods example or Country Brook example, for the use of the sewer district, for the use of drain water runoff, for the use of the subdivision trustees, whoever they might be. We've already talked about lien holders who've received no notice. A special tax bill is a bill that's stuck on the property by the county or by a municipality for some sort of specific work that they or a contractor hired on their behalf has done at the property. So for instance, if my real estate tax bill is $1,000 in U City for this year, and the government decides to tear down my garage because it's an alleged public safety risk, it's falling down, whatever, and that demolition costs $8,000, then my general tax bill is $1,000, but my special tax bill is $8,000. Why? Because the taxpayers have fronted the money to the private demolition contractor to take down my property. And sometimes those special tax bills for mowing grass or doing other kinds of nuisance abatement take a year or two to just show up, and they hurt people. Federal tax liens are something we're going to talk about here a little bit more in depth. On the other hand, however, we're going on an hour here, so I'm going to start to try to speed it up. Sewer bills very likely survive the tax sale based on a recent court case. The legal description for the property is something we talked about earlier. That's something that a title company or a surveyor would be better, or perhaps a real estate attorney would be the right person to help you out with. Persons who are disabled or incapacitated or otherwise qualify for some sort of protection may have additional time to redeem their property. Bankruptcy can be problematic because it, like federal tax liens, or federal liens in general, are superior to Missouri law. Bankruptcy is a federal matter, and it can't be controlled by Missouri law. Speaking now specifically about sewer bills, we have a recent case that came down from the Missouri Court of Appeals Eastern District just in September, late September, and it stands for the proposition that sewer bills survive a tax sale. Now, it's a Jefferson County case. It's not related specifically to St. Louis's Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District, which covers most of St. Louis County and the city of St. Louis. However, it appears to be completely on point. The case is on appeal to the state Supreme Court. It's an application for transfer, technically, in Jefferson City, and we may have more information within several months. but the Supreme Court may choose to simply affirm the lower court's plural decision. And this case simply says that if somebody has a $1,000 sewer bill on their property, then that survives the tax sale. So if you're buying something off of the post-third list, you should be very, 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 very careful to try to figure out what the amount of the sewer bill is before making an offer of anything. Now, how do I do that, you might say? And the reality is that there's certain privacy concerns that we can all understand. If you call the sewer district and say, hey, what does Dale Sweet owe on his sewer bill? And I happen to owe $80 or $8 million, why is that any of your business, right? And, and the reality is it may or may not be. It is if you're thinking about buying my property off of St. Louis County's post-third list, and that's what I'm here to say. And so I talked to an attorney at the sewer district this afternoon. They said that they're really working on trying to come up with some sort of electronic portal or a way to figure out what that amount might be. We can leave the policy considerations or where the sewer bill should ever be cut off for a different day. But the reality is they said they're working on it. In the meantime, call customer care, call accounts receivable, and if you can't get the number that you want from a supervisor or a manager saying that the property's on a tax sale list, well, then you can always do a sunshine law request, and that's for now. They realize that they need some sort of mechanism to let people know what the sewer bill might be before they make an offer on a post-third list. Speaking now, turning now from the sewer bill to federal tax liens, we've been talking this whole tonight for the last hour about Missouri law. And Missouri law cannot purport to be supreme to federal law, nor can the law of Rhode Island or Delaware or Mississippi or California or anywhere else. And so therefore, if you have an IRS lien, a Department of Justice lien, other kinds of things against that property, you could be looking at a much longer road for your quiet title, and you may have to pay something. This is a very, very good reason to order a title report on a property before making an offer to St. Louis County or some other county collector in order to figure out what might be against that property. And when we say that, what are we talking about? Title issues. And so this is always when you end up with a collector's deed or a tax deed on a property that you've bought off of an auction or a post-third list or whatever, there's always going to be the question of what kind of title do I have, and how does that compare to the law, and how does that compare to my eventual buyer or eventual lender's title company. And federal liens, as we've just discussed, are going to be superior to Missouri law. Those sewer bills are highly likely, in fact, almost guaranteed to continue against the property, even if you end up with a property from the post-third list. But title companies are risk averse. They have national underwriters, so even though there's a title company in Lindbergh or a Swingley Ridge or Hampton or Halls Ferry or wherever else, they're only getting a one-time premium at closing. And they're going to insure the title to the property forevermore as to the owner of that property for as long as she, he, it, we, they own it. And so therefore, naturally, you're going to see that they're going to be risk averse. They're going to want more process than is due, and they're going to want better quality of action from you or your attorney during that quiet title phase after getting a collector's deed than you would necessarily expect. And the reality is that that's their prerogative. We can agree with it, we cannot agree with the policy decisions and so on, but that's the state of the law. The good news is that we have a few title companies in St. Louis who are friendly to tax sale purchasers and are generally willing to insure on these things. If the tax sale purchaser has done all of the right stuff, so has her attorney, and so on. And we've, at the same time that we were replacing those countertops or tearing down the fancy wall between the kitchen and the dining room to put in the whatever they do on HGTV, that we've also been working on cleaning up the title with a quiet title lawsuit. Quiet titles and all of this stuff are always time and materials jobs. You're going to have to do some kind of curative work. Sometimes people will call me and they're going to say, well, I bought this vacant lot. It was on the post-third list. I'm going to put my tomato plants out there or my swing set, and I need you to get started right away, Dale. And I say, for the love of God, why? The taxes haven't been paid in 10, 12, 15 years, 8 years, whatever it is. You're going to put a swing set out there. You have a deed to the property. You own it now. Where do I come in? And that's just to make sure that people understand that I don't have my hand out. And so under those circumstances, the tax sale purchaser may choose not to worry about a quiet title or other curative work. On the other hand, however, if you're going to sell a property, flip it, rehab it, borrow against it, and so on, you will need a quiet title lawsuit, which is a separate lawsuit following the issuance of that collector's deed or other curative work. When I say other curative work, sometimes people come to me with a title report and they say, well, the only person on this property is Ron Jackson or Sally Smith, and they are unmarried and they live down the block and they're willing to sign a quitclaim deed. Perfect, end of story. Who needs a lawsuit? You get the idea. So there are no guarantees or promises on a quiet title lawsuit. In St. Louis County, they usually end up being somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 under these facts, but every situation is unique. And there are some properties on this list of 1,700 that will cost a fortune, some that will cost $150, and some that will drag on forevermore. And that's why I can never make any guarantee or promise, especially under the circumstances where I'm talking about 1,700 different properties on a government list. Here's me, it's Dale Sweet, 636-TAX-SALE is my telephone number, or 636-829-7253. My email address is Dale@MissouriTaxSales, plural, SALES.com. Delighted to put you on my email list. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision that should not be based upon solely upon advertisements, including this advertisement. If this is an advertisement, I will see you in April for another video about our processes in the city of